Sarah Martinez stepped off the bus at the police academy with shaking hands and a stomach full of butterflies. At 22 years old, she looked more like she belonged in a college library than on a training ground filled with future law enforcement officers. Her small frame barely reached 5 feet 2 inches, and her nervous smile made her appear even younger than her actual age. The other recruits towered over her as they gathered in the main courtyard. Most were former military personnel with broad shoulders and confident stances. Others were college athletes who had dreamed of becoming police officers since childhood. Then there was Jake Morrison, a 6'4" former football player who immediately noticed Sarah struggling with her heavy duffel bag. "Hey, Tiny," Jake called out with a smirk that drew attention from nearby recruits. "You sure you're in the right place? The community college is about 10 miles that way." His comment sparked laughter from several other trainees, and Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Sarah had grown up in a rough neighborhood where crime was a daily reality. Her younger brother had been caught up with the wrong crowd, and she had watched her single mother work 3 jobs just to keep their family afloat. Unlike her fellow recruits who spoke about wanting to serve and protect, Sarah's motivation was deeply personal. She wanted to make a difference in communities like the one she came from, where people often viewed police as outsiders who didn't understand their struggles. During the first week of orientation, the differences between Sarah and her classmates became even more apparent. While others discussed their college degrees in criminal justice or their military training, Sarah quietly mentioned her associate degree from a community college and her part-time job at a local diner. The instructors, seasoned officers with decades of experience, seemed skeptical when they looked at her small frame and soft-spoken manner. "Martinez," barked Sergeant Williams during their first physical assessment, "you sure you can handle the physical demands of this job? Police work isn't about being nice to people." The comment drew snickers from some recruits, and Sarah noticed how some of her classmates exchanged glances that seemed to say she wouldn't last a week. The physical training proved to be Sarah's biggest challenge during those early days. While she had been active throughout her life, she had never engaged in the intense military-style workouts that the academy demanded. Push-ups, sit-ups, and long runs became daily torture sessions where she consistently finished last. Her breathing was labored, her muscles ached constantly, and she often fell behind during group exercises. During combat training, the size difference between Sarah and her classmates became even more obvious. When paired with larger recruits for defensive tactics, she was easily overpowered and thrown to the mat repeatedly. Jake Morrison seemed to take particular pleasure in being paired with her, using his size advantage to demonstrate techniques with unnecessary force. "Come on, Martinez," he would say after pinning her to the ground for the 3rd time in a row. "My little sister could put up more of a fight than that." The other recruits would laugh, and Sarah would get back up, dust herself off, and prepare for another round of being outmatched and embarrassed. The academic portion of training provided little relief for Sarah's damaged confidence. While she was intelligent and studied hard, many of her classmates had prior experience with law enforcement procedures, legal terminology, and police protocols. They would casually reference concepts and procedures that were completely foreign to her, making her feel like she was always playing catch-up. During firearms training, Sarah's inexperience with guns became another source of ridicule. She had never held a weapon before arriving at the academy, while many of her classmates had been shooting since childhood. Her first attempts at the shooting range were disasters, with bullets scattered all over the target area except where they were supposed to be. "Has she ever seen a gun before?" whispered one recruit to another loud enough for Sarah to hear. The instructor shook his head in frustration and moved on to help other students who showed more natural ability. Sarah spent her evenings at the range, practicing alone and trying to overcome her fear of the weapon that would become an essential tool of her future profession. As weeks passed, the comments and laughter from her fellow recruits began to take a psychological toll on Sarah. She started doubting whether she belonged at the academy and questioned if she had made a terrible mistake. Phone calls home to her mother became increasingly difficult, as she tried to hide her struggles and maintain a positive attitude about her training. The breaking point came during a particularly challenging obstacle course exercise. Sarah fell behind early and struggled with every element of the course. As she attempted to climb over a high wall, she lost her grip and fell hard to the ground. The laughter from her classmates echoed across the training field, and she lay there for a moment, fighting back tears and wondering if she should just give up and go home. That evening, as Sarah sat alone in her dormitory room, she made a decision that would change everything. Instead of packing her bags and admitting defeat, she decided to prove everyone wrong. She realized that while she might not have the physical advantages or prior experience of her classmates, she had something they didn't expect: an unbreakable determination born from years of overcoming obstacles and fighting for everything she had ever achieved. Sarah's transformation began at 4:30 in the morning, when her alarm clock shattered the silence of the dormitory. While her classmates slept, she quietly slipped out of bed and made her way to the academy's gym. The empty facility became her sanctuary, a place where she could work on her weaknesses without the judgmental eyes and mocking comments of her fellow recruits. Every morning before official training began, Sarah put herself through grueling workout routines. She focused on building the upper body strength that had held her back during physical challenges. Pull-ups, which had seemed impossible just weeks earlier, gradually became manageable as she added one more repetition each day. Her small frame, which had been a source of ridicule, actually became an advantage as she learned to use her lower center of gravity and quick movements to her benefit. The shooting range became Sarah's second home during her free time. She spent hours studying proper stance, breathing techniques, and trigger control. The range instructor, Officer Reynolds, initially paid little attention to her struggles, but he began to notice her dedication when she appeared every evening after regular training hours. Her target slowly improved from scattered holes across the entire board to tight groupings near the center ring. "You're putting in the work, Martinez," Officer Reynolds commented one evening as he watched her carefully adjust her grip and stance. "Most recruits rely on natural talent, but you're building real skill through practice. That's going to serve you well in the field." It was the first encouraging word Sarah had received from an instructor, and it fueled her determination to continue pushing forward. During classroom sessions, Sarah applied the same methodical approach that was transforming her physical abilities. She arrived early to review materials, took detailed notes, and stayed after class to ask questions. While other recruits relied on their prior knowledge and experience, Sarah built her understanding from the ground up, often developing a more thorough comprehension of procedures and protocols than her more experienced classmates. The change in Sarah's performance didn't go unnoticed, but it wasn't always met with encouragement. Some recruits, particularly Jake Morrison, seemed threatened by her improvement and intensified their mockery. During hand-to-hand combat training, Jake deliberately used excessive force when paired with Sarah, trying to discourage her progress and maintain his position as the alpha recruit in their class. "Just because you can do a few push-ups now doesn't mean you belong here. Tiny," Jake sneered after throwing Sarah to the mat with unnecessary aggression. "This job requires real strength, not just determination." His comments drew nervous laughter from some classmates, but Sarah noticed that others had begun to watch her training with curiosity rather than amusement. Sarah's breakthrough moment came during a tactical simulation exercise designed to test decision-making under pressure. The scenario involved a domestic violence call, where recruits had to navigate a complex situation with multiple potential outcomes. While her physically imposing classmates relied on intimidation and force, Sarah's approach was completely different. Drawing from her background growing up in a troubled neighborhood, Sarah understood the dynamics of family conflict in ways her classmates couldn't. She listened carefully to the actors playing the distressed family members, picked up on subtle cues about underlying issues, and used communication skills rather than physical presence to de-escalate the situation. Her solution was creative, compassionate, and effective. "Interesting approach, Martinez," commented Sergeant Williams after the exercise. "You solved that situation without anyone getting hurt and actually addressed the root cause of the problem. That's real police work." Several of her classmates looked surprised by the praise, and Sarah felt a surge of confidence that had been building slowly over the previous weeks. The academic examinations that marked the midpoint of their training revealed just how much Sarah had progressed. While she had started behind many of her classmates, her dedicated study habits and thorough understanding of the material resulted in some of the highest scores in the class. She excelled particularly in constitutional law, community policing strategies, and crisis intervention techniques. Jake Morrison's attitude toward Sarah began to shift from dismissive to openly hostile, as her competence became undeniable. During group exercises, he would try to undermine her contributions or claim credit for her ideas. His behavior became so obvious that other recruits started to notice and distance themselves from his increasingly petty attacks on Sarah's progress. The physical fitness tests, that had been Sarah's greatest weakness, gradually became a source of pride. Her improvement was dramatic and measurable. She went from finishing last in every running exercise to completing times that ranked in the middle of her class. Her performance in strength-based challenges improved even more significantly, as her dedicated training had built functional muscle and endurance. Sarah's shooting scores became a particular source of satisfaction. The recruit who had never held a gun before entering the academy was now consistently scoring in the top quarter of her class. Her precision and consistency impressed even the most skeptical instructors, who had written her off as hopeless during those first embarrassing sessions at the range. More importantly than her individual improvements, Sarah began to earn the respect of her classmates through her actions, rather than demanding it through words. When a struggling recruit needed help with academic material, Sarah offered tutoring sessions. When someone was injured during training, she was the first to offer assistance. Her genuine concern for others and collaborative spirit stood in stark contrast to the competitive and sometimes cutthroat atmosphere that some recruits fostered. The transformation wasn't just physical or academic. Sarah's confidence grew with each small victory and every obstacle she overcame. The shy, uncertain young woman who had stepped off the bus months earlier was evolving into someone who belonged at the academy. She began to speak up more during discussions, offer suggestions during group exercises, and carry herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned her place through hard work and determination. The academy's most challenging phase arrived. During the 8th week of training, when recruits faced comprehensive evaluations that would determine who advanced to field training and who would be dismissed from the program. Sarah approached these crucial weeks with a mixture of confidence earned through months of hard work and nervous energy about proving herself when it mattered most. The first major test was the physical agility assessment, a timed obstacle course that required recruits to demonstrate the physical capabilities necessary for real police work. Sarah watched as her classmates tackled the course with varying degrees of success. Jake Morrison blazed through with impressive speed and power, finishing with one of the best times of the day, and reminding everyone why his physical presence had made him an early favorite among instructors. When Sarah's turn arrived, a small crowd of recruits gathered to watch. Some were genuinely curious to see how much she had improved, while others seemed to be waiting for her to fail spectacularly and confirm their original assumptions about her capabilities. The months of early morning training sessions and dedicated physical conditioning had prepared her for this moment. But the pressure of performing under scrutiny added an extra layer of difficulty. Sarah approached each obstacle with calculated precision rather than raw power. Where larger recruits relied on strength to overcome barriers, she used technique and agility. Her smaller frame allowed her to navigate tight spaces more efficiently, and her improved conditioning meant she maintained steady energy throughout the course. When she crossed the finish line, her time was solidly in the middle of the class rankings. A remarkable achievement considering where she had started. Not bad, Martinez acknowledged Sergeant Williams as he recorded her time. You've come a long way from that first day when you could barely climb over a fence. The comment drew approving nods from several classmates, and Sarah felt a surge of pride at the recognition of her progress from someone who had been openly skeptical about her potential. The written examinations proved to be Sarah's strongest area of performance. Her meticulous study habits and thorough understanding of police procedures, legal requirements, and community relations principles resulted in consistently high scores across all subject areas. While some of her classmates struggled with the complex legal concepts and procedural requirements, Sarah's systematic approach to learning had given her a solid foundation that served her well under testing conditions. During scenario-based training exercises, Sarah's unique background and perspective began to shine even more brightly. The academy presented recruits with situations that mirrored real-world police work, from traffic stops and domestic disputes to more serious criminal investigations. While many recruits approached these scenarios with textbook responses, Sarah brought an intuitive understanding of human behavior and community dynamics that set her apart. In one particularly challenging scenario involving a mental health crisis, Sarah's compassionate approach and patient communication skills successfully de-escalated a situation that several other recruits had handled with unnecessary force or aggressive tactics. The instructor praised her ability to connect with people in distress and solve problems through understanding rather than intimidation. "This is what community policing looks like," the instructor explained to the class while reviewing Sarah's performance. "Real police work often requires building trust and understanding, rather than simply asserting authority." Martinez demonstrated exactly the kind of approach that makes effective law enforcement officers. The feedback represented a significant shift in how instructors viewed her potential. As a future police officer, the firearms qualification test became another opportunity for Sarah to demonstrate how far she had progressed. The recruit who had never held a gun before entering the academy now approached the shooting range with quiet confidence. Her scores consistently ranked among the top performers in the class, and her precision under pressure impressed even the most experienced firearms instructors. Jake Morrison's hostility toward Sarah reached new levels as her competence became undeniable to everyone around them. During group exercises, he would make snide comments about her background or try to undermine her contributions to team discussions. His behavior became so disruptive that other recruits began to openly express their disapproval of his attitude. "Why don't you focus on your own performance instead of trying to tear down someone who's clearly earning her place here?" challenged Maria Santos, a former military police officer who had become one of Sarah's closest allies in the class. The confrontation highlighted how much the social dynamics within their recruit class had shifted as Sarah proved herself through consistent performance and professional behavior. Sarah's leadership qualities emerged during team-based exercises where recruits had to work together to solve complex problems or complete challenging tasks. Her collaborative approach and ability to bring out the best in her teammates contrasted sharply with the more authoritarian style that some recruits adopted. She demonstrated that effective leadership often came from empowering others rather than dominating them. The academy's instructors began to take notice of Sarah's complete transformation. Officers who had initially questioned whether she belonged in law enforcement were now using her as an example of dedication and professional development. Her improvement in every measurable area of training was remarkable, but more importantly, she had developed the character traits and problem-solving abilities that made excellent police officers. During peer evaluations, where recruits assessed each other's potential as future law enforcement officers, Sarah received overwhelmingly positive feedback from most of her classmates. Comments highlighted her integrity, work ethic, and genuine commitment to serving others. Even some recruits who had initially dismissed her acknowledged that she had proven herself worthy of respect and professional recognition. The competitive atmosphere that had characterized the early weeks of training began to evolve into something more collaborative as recruits recognized that they were all working toward the same goal of becoming competent law enforcement officers. Sarah's example of perseverance and continuous improvement inspired others to push themselves harder and support their classmates rather than simply trying to outperform them. As the evaluation period continued, Sarah consistently demonstrated that she belonged at the academy, not despite her humble beginnings and initial struggles, but because of how those experiences had shaped her into someone uniquely qualified to serve her community with empathy, determination, and genuine understanding of the people she would be sworn to protect and serve. The Academy's final month brought the most intense and comprehensive training exercises designed to simulate real-world police scenarios. Sarah entered this crucial phase as a completely different person than the uncertain young woman who had arrived months earlier. Her transformation was evident, not just in her improved physical capabilities and academic performance, but in the quiet confidence and professional demeanor she now carried herself with. The capstone exercise was announced during a Monday morning briefing that would test everything recruits had learned throughout their training. They would participate in a week-long simulation that replicated an actual police district, complete with actors playing community members, ongoing criminal investigations, and complex situations that required quick thinking and sound judgment under pressure. This exercise will determine who graduates and who goes home, announced Chief Instructor Captain Rodriguez. You'll be evaluated not just on individual performance, but on your ability to work as part of a team and serve the community effectively. Some of you will discover that law enforcement isn't the right career path, and that's perfectly acceptable. Better to learn that here than on the streets. The simulation began with recruits assigned to different patrol sectors within a mock community. Sarah found herself partnered with David Chen, a former Marine who had initially been skeptical of her abilities, but had grown to respect her unconventional approach to problem-solving. Their assignment included a neighborhood that closely resembled the area where Sarah had grown up, complete with economic challenges and strained relationships between residents and law enforcement. Their first call involved a domestic disturbance at a rundown apartment complex. While David prepared to approach the situation with standard police protocols, Sarah suggested they take time to understand the background and context before making contact with the involved parties. Her instinct proved valuable when they discovered the disturbance was related to a family struggling with unemployment and eviction notices rather than a criminal matter. How did you know to look for those underlying issues? David asked after they had successfully connected the family with social services and resolved the situation without arrests or confrontation. Sarah explained that her background had taught her to recognize when people were acting out of desperation rather than criminal intent, and that addressing root causes often prevented future problems. Throughout the week, Sarah and David encountered increasingly complex scenarios that tested their judgment, communication skills, and ability to work together effectively. Sarah's empathetic approach and David's tactical training complemented each other perfectly, and they developed a partnership that impressed the evaluating instructors who observed their every interaction. The most challenging situation occurred on the fourth day when they responded to a report of suspicious activity at a local school. The scenario involved a potentially armed individual on campus, requiring immediate response and careful coordination with other units. Sarah's heart raced as they approached the building, knowing that this type of high-stakes situation would test everything she had learned about remaining calm under extreme pressure. As they secured the perimeter and gathered information from witnesses, Sarah noticed inconsistencies in the reports that suggested the situation might not be what it initially appeared. While other units prepared for a potentially dangerous confrontation, she suggested they verify the information before escalating their response. Her cautious approach proved wise when they discovered the suspicious individual was actually a maintenance worker who belonged on campus. "Good catch, Martinez," radioed the supervising instructor. "Jumping to conclusions in a situation like this could have had serious consequences. Your attention to detail and careful analysis prevented what could have been a major incident." The praise meant everything to Sarah, who had learned to value professional recognition based on competence rather than just effort. Jake Morrison, meanwhile, was struggling with the collaborative aspects of the simulation. His tendency to dominate situations and dismiss input from partners and community members had resulted in several failed scenarios and negative evaluations from instructors. His physical capabilities remained impressive, but his inability to work effectively with others and connect with community members was raising serious questions about his suitability for police work. During a particularly complex investigation scenario, Jake's aggressive approach to questioning witnesses had actually hindered the investigation and damaged relationships with community members who might have provided valuable information. In contrast, Sarah's patient and respectful interviewing techniques had yielded crucial details that helped solve the case and demonstrated the importance of building trust with the people police officers serve. The simulation included media relations training, where recruits had to handle press conferences and community meetings about controversial incidents. Sarah's authentic communication style and genuine concern for community well-being made her a natural at these challenging interactions. She spoke honestly about mistakes when they occurred and focused on building understanding rather than simply defending police actions. The community needs to trust that we're here to serve them, not just enforce laws, Sarah explained during a simulated town hall meeting about police-community relations. That trust has to be earned through our actions every day, not just demanded because of our badges. Her comments resonated with the actors playing community members and impressed the instructors evaluating her performance. As the simulation week progressed, it became clear that Sarah had not only met the Academy's standards, but had exceeded expectations in ways that surprised even her most supportive instructors. Her combination of technical competence, emotional intelligence, and genuine commitment to service represented exactly the kind of police officer that modern law enforcement needed. The final day of simulation included individual evaluations, where each recruit met with a panel of instructors to discuss their performance and receive feedback about their readiness for field training. Sarah entered the evaluation room with nervous excitement, knowing that she had given her absolute best effort and demonstrated capabilities that no one had expected when she first arrived at the academy. "Martinez," began Captain Rodriguez, "when you first walked through our doors, I honestly didn't think you would last 2 weeks. Your transformation has been remarkable, and your performance during this simulation has been outstanding. You've proven that dedication and character matter more than initial advantages, and you've earned the respect of your instructors and classmates." The evaluation continued with detailed feedback about Sarah's strengths and areas for continued development. The instructors praised her problem-solving abilities, communication skills, and natural talent for community relations. They also noted her impressive improvement in all physical and tactical areas, demonstrating that hard work could overcome initial disadvantages. The Academy's graduation ceremony approached with an atmosphere of anticipation and reflection. 28 recruits had started the program 6 months earlier, but only 22 would receive their badges and move on to field training. Sarah stood among the graduates, still somewhat amazed that she had not only survived the rigorous training, but had thrived in ways that surprised everyone, including herself. Jake Morrison was not among the graduates. Despite his impressive physical capabilities and initial confidence, his inability to work collaboratively with others and his dismissive attitude toward community members had ultimately led to his dismissal during the final evaluation period. The Academy's leadership had determined that his approach to law enforcement was incompatible with modern police work, which emphasized community partnership and professional service. The irony was not lost on Sarah or her classmates. The recruit who had been loudest in questioning others' qualifications had been found lacking in the character traits that truly mattered for effective police work. His departure served as a reminder that success in law enforcement required much more than physical strength or aggressive assertiveness. During the week leading up to graduation, the Academy announced its annual awards recognizing outstanding achievement in various areas of training. Sarah never imagined she would be in contention for any recognition beyond simply graduating, but her name was called for several significant honors that acknowledged her remarkable transformation and exceptional performance. The Academic Excellence Award recognized Sarah's consistently high performance on written examinations and her thorough understanding of police procedures, constitutional law, and community relations principles. Her systematic approach to learning and dedicated study habits had resulted in some of the highest scores in Academy history, particularly impressive considering her limited background in criminal justice when she had started the program. More meaningful to Sarah was receiving the Community Relations Award, which recognized recruits who demonstrated exceptional ability to connect with diverse populations and build positive relationships between law enforcement and the communities they serve. The award acknowledged her natural empathy, cultural sensitivity, and genuine commitment to serving others rather than simply enforcing laws. This award recognizes someone who understands that effective policing requires building bridges with the community, explained Captain Rodriguez during the presentation. Sarah Martinez has demonstrated throughout her training that she possesses the character and communication skills necessary to be a true community servant, not just a law enforcement officer. The most surprising recognition came when Sarah was selected to receive the Outstanding Recruit Award, the Academy's highest honor for overall excellence during training. The award considered not just academic and physical performance, but leadership qualities, character development, and potential for future success in law enforcement. Previous recipients had gone on to distinguished careers and leadership positions within their departments. When we present this award, we're recognizing someone who embodies the very best of what law enforcement can be, Captain Rodriguez announced to the assembled graduates, families, and Academy staff. This year's recipient overcame significant challenges through determination, hard work, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. She has demonstrated that success in law enforcement comes not from initial advantages, but from character, dedication, and a genuine desire to serve others. As Sarah walked across the stage to receive the award, she caught sight of her mother in the audience, tears streaming down her face with pride. Her younger brother, who had struggled with the law in the past, was also there, wearing a suit and looking at his sister with admiration and hope for his own future. The moment represented not just personal achievement, but the fulfillment of a promise Sarah had made to herself to break cycles of disadvantage through service and excellence. Her classmates, who had once laughed at her struggles, now stood and applauded her recognition. Maria Santos, who had become a close friend and training partner, shouted encouragement from the audience. Even David Chen, her simulation partner, gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up from his seat among the other graduates. The academy's instructors, who had watched Sarah's complete transformation over 6 months, expressed their own amazement at her development. Sergeant Williams, who had initially questioned whether she could handle the physical demands of police work, now spoke about her as an example of what determination and proper training could accomplish. "I've been training recruits for 15 years, Sergeant Williams told Sarah after the ceremony. "I've never seen anyone improve as dramatically as you have, and more importantly, I've rarely seen someone develop into such a well-rounded police officer. You're going to have a tremendous career in law enforcement." Officer Reynolds, the firearms instructor who had witnessed Sarah's evolution from someone who had never held a gun to one of the academy's top shooters, praised her dedication and teachability. "You prove that natural talent isn't as important as willingness to learn and practice," he told her. "Those qualities will serve you well throughout your career." The graduation ceremony itself was an emotional culmination of months of challenging training and personal growth. As Sarah stood with her classmates in their crisp uniforms, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The frightened young woman who had stepped off the bus 6 months earlier had been replaced by a confident, competent professional ready to serve her community with honor and distinction. During the formal oath-taking ceremony, Sarah raised her right hand alongside her fellow graduates and swore to uphold the law and serve the public with integrity, courage, and dedication. The words carried special meaning for her, representing not just a professional commitment, but a personal mission to make a positive difference in the lives of people who needed help and protection. Chief of Police Margaret Thompson, who delivered the graduation address, spoke about the challenges facing modern law enforcement and the importance of recruiting officers who could build trust and work collaboratively with diverse communities. She specifically mentioned Sarah's journey as an example of how the academy was successfully training officers who would represent the future of professional law enforcement. "The graduates we celebrate today represent hope for improved police-community relations," Chief Thompson explained. "They have been trained not just to enforce laws but to serve as problem solvers, community partners, and guardians of public safety. Officers like Sarah Martinez give me confidence that law enforcement is evolving in positive directions." As the ceremony concluded and families gathered to congratulate the new officers, Sarah found herself surrounded by academy staff, classmates, and family members who wanted to acknowledge her remarkable achievement. The recognition felt surreal to someone who had spent months doubting whether she belonged at the academy at all. 6 months after graduation, Officer Sarah Martinez had established herself as one of the most promising new police officers in the department. Her field training had gone exceptionally well, with her training officer praising her judgment, communication skills, and natural ability to connect with community members. The same qualities that had impressed academy instructors were now making a real difference on the streets where she served. Sarah's first assignment was to the same type of neighborhood where she had grown up, an area struggling with economic challenges and historically strained relationships with law enforcement. Her supervisors initially worried that the assignment might be too emotionally challenging for a new officer, but Sarah had specifically requested to work in communities that needed the most help and understanding. The difference in her approach became apparent immediately. Where other officers might see only problems and potential threats, Sarah recognized families and individuals who were struggling with circumstances beyond their control. Her ability to communicate with residents in their own language, both literally and culturally, allowed her to build relationships that helped solve problems before they escalated into serious crimes. During her first month on patrol, Sarah successfully mediated a dispute between neighbors that had been escalating toward violence. Instead of simply separating the parties and filing reports, she took time to understand the underlying issues and helped connect both families with resources that addressed their real needs. The incident became a model for problem-oriented policing that other officers began to emulate. Her reputation for fairness and genuine concern spread quickly through the community. Parents who had previously taught their children to fear police began encouraging them to wave at Officer Martinez when she patrolled their streets. Local business owners started calling her directly when they noticed suspicious activity, trusting that she would respond appropriately and effectively. The academy began using Sarah's story as an example in their recruitment efforts, demonstrating that successful police officers could come from any background and that determination mattered more than initial advantages. Her journey from struggling recruit to outstanding officer inspired other non-traditional candidates to consider law enforcement careers and helped the department recruit more diverse officers who reflected the communities they served. Captain Rodriguez visited Sarah during her 3rd month on the job to check on her progress and was amazed by what he observed. "You're exactly the kind of officer we hoped you would become," he told her after watching her handle a complex family crisis with patience and skill. "Your academy transformation was impressive, but seeing you apply those skills in real situations is even more remarkable." Sarah had also become a mentor for new academy recruits, particularly those who struggled with confidence or felt out of place during training. She volunteered to speak at orientation sessions, sharing her story and encouraging new recruits to focus on improvement rather than comparison with their classmates. Her message was simple but powerful. Success came from dedication and character, not from natural advantages. Maria Santos, who had graduated alongside Sarah and was now serving in a neighboring district, remained one of her closest friends and professional allies. They often shared experiences and strategies for effective community policing, supporting each other as they built their careers in law enforcement. Their friendship had grown from mutual respect during academy training into a professional partnership that made both officers more effective. The annual Academy Award ceremony provided an opportunity for Sarah to return as a guest speaker, addressing the new graduating class about the importance of perseverance and continuous learning. Standing at the podium where she had once received recognition as an outstanding recruit, she looked out at faces that reminded her of her own uncertainty and determination from just 1 year earlier. "A year ago, I stood where you're sitting now wondering if I really belonged here," Sarah told the graduates. "I had people tell me I was too small, too inexperienced, and too different to succeed in law enforcement. What I learned is that our differences can be our greatest strengths if we're willing to work hard and stay true to our values." Her speech focused on the importance of serving others, rather than simply asserting authority, building relationships rather than just enforcing rules, and approaching each interaction with empathy and professionalism. The message resonated with graduates who were about to begin their own journeys in law enforcement, many of whom faced their own doubts and challenges. Jake Morrison's story served as a cautionary counterpoint to Sarah's success. After being dismissed from the academy, he had struggled to find direction and purpose. Several attempts at other careers had failed, and he eventually recognized that his attitude and approach to working with others had been the real barrier to his success. His story reminded everyone that talent without character was insufficient for meaningful achievement. Sarah's younger brother, inspired by his sister's transformation and success, had turned his own life around and was now considering applying to the police academy himself. The positive influence of Sarah's example had rippled through her family and community, demonstrating how one person's determination could create opportunities and hope for others. The police department recognized Sarah's exceptional performance by selecting her for accelerated advancement opportunities typically reserved for officers with several years of experience. Her supervisors recommended her for specialized training in community relations and crisis intervention, areas where her natural abilities and academy training had prepared her to excel. As Sarah reflected on her journey from ridiculed recruit to respected officer, she understood that the laughter and doubt she had faced during training had actually strengthened her resolve and shaped her into a better police officer. The challenges that had once seemed insurmountable had become the foundation for confidence and competence that served her community every day. Her story became part of academy folklore, shared with new classes as proof that anyone could succeed in law enforcement with sufficient determination and commitment to excellence. The young woman who had once been dismissed as too small and inexperienced had not only proven her critics wrong but had redefined what it meant to be an outstanding police officer. Sarah Martinez had shocked everyone, including herself, by transforming from the academy's most unlikely recruit into one of its greatest success stories. Her journey demonstrated that true strength came not from physical advantages or initial confidence, but from the determination to overcome obstacles and serve others with integrity, compassion, and unwavering dedication to justice.